out the same way every single time. And for an athlete, particularly if you're a coach coaching an athlete, you want the athlete to do the same thing every single time. We'll look at the scoreboard when things are over and figure out who's got more points when time runs out. But that's what you want out of your athlete. You don't want your athlete to look at the bracket or see the draw and all of a sudden, no big deal, and they don't warm up. Or they go out there and, they win the match and it's pretty dominant, but it should have been more dominant. They should have closed them out. The gap should have been bigger. You want your athlete to just perform to the best of their ability and take every match the same, whether they got a bum or they got a champion. And as a coach, that's what you try to do with your athlete, to get them to not see the opponent. Let's not at all think about the outcome, but let's think about the performance. What is it you need to do? How many hours of sleep do you need to get to be at your best? What do you need to have for breakfast to be at your best? What songs do you need to hear? What sights do you need to see? What is it that makes you perform well? And the thing with Joanna, and I call her Joanna Champion because I can't say Jedrzejczyk. I used to think I was the only guy that knew her last name correctly of Jedrzejczyk, and then I had people tweeting me telling me that Jedrzejczyk isn't right, that I'm saying it wrong. I thought I was the one guy that had it right. So Joanna Champion, the one thing about her, you know what you're going to get at the press conference, and you know what you're going to get in the performance. She is going to try to kickbox you, and she is going to do it nonstop. And when she gets tired, she's going to go a little bit harder. And when the fight gets tough, she's going to get a little bit tougher. And that's what separates her from everybody else. So many people talk about what a great kickboxer she is. And I will agree. But I don't know that, look, she can punch and kick. Who can't? Who the hell can't punch and kick? That's fighting on pay-per-view on Saturday night. I mean, come on. Everybody can do that. The thing that does separate her is when the going gets tough, she gets tougher. When the waters get deep, she can get deeper. And the nastier things get, the nastier she becomes. And that's what separates her. And we've seen that. We saw that in 2 fights ago when she had the Brazilian girl. It was a really hard fight and she was having a really hard time. And about 15 minutes in, she turns on. And that's where she starts to separate herself. I think that's what makes her special. I also personally am just a fan of her from an entertainment standpoint. The press conferences mean something to me. For some people, they don't mean anything. Oh, I'm just here to fight. Well, press conference on TV too. I want to be entertained. I'm a fan. You guys listen to this podcast? Well, the podcast is fairly entertaining, right? Can I say that? Can I say that about myself without being a jerk about it? But there's entertaining things that go on down here. There's a lot of guys that could come out and say, well, Junior Dos Anjos is going to fight Stipe in a rematch Saturday, so make sure you tune in. And there's a reason that this show's at number 1. Entertainment matters. It all matters. It's not just the punching and the kicking and the grappling and the trying to get the other guy to say uncle. It's not just about that. And I feel that Joanna delivers. I remember when she fought Esparza for the title. I didn't know who in the hell she was. Nobody did. That division was brand new. If you guys remember when Carla won the title, it came through an Ultimate Fighter. So even the leadership of the UFC goes, look, we don't know the depth of the division. We don't know who's who. Let's take anybody that says they should be champion, stick them all in a tournament, and rise one of them to the top. That was a pretty damn good way to do it. When you don't really know, that's a damn fair way to do things. So Esparza comes out. I happen to know Carla because she was a wrestler. She used to live at the Olympic Training Center. Really tough gal. And I remember at the press conference, Joanna came out. She was this Polish girl. Nobody knew her. She's on American soil. Nobody knew. Nobody cared. And Joanna hold up the number 1 sign. Carla's got the belt over her shoulder, and Joanna holds up number 1 for about herself. So then Carla just matches her, and she just holds up a number 1 so they can have the photo op. And Joanna stops her. She reaches out and grabs her hand and puts it down and says, no, you not hold up number 1. I am number 1. You do not do this. And what was so compelling is Carla stopped. Carla didn't do it. Carla listened to her. And I'm going, Carla, you're the champion of the world. You don't listen to anybody, let alone a gal who's come from a foreign country to your turf. This is the fight game after all. It's nationalistic as much as it is anything else. Do not let that Polish girl win over your fans. But she did. She did. Joanna came in. She did what Joanna does. She talked the talk. She walked the walk. She took over the press conferences. She took over the post-fight press conferences. She took over the mic from Joe Rogan, and she took over the championship. And I still remember it because it was so, I didn't know who this girl was. I'm a fan. I'm a diehard fan. I didn't know who she was. I knew who she was after that. And nobody's looked back. And that she, in many ways, is what Ronda was supposed to be. And I don't mean that as a knock to Ronda. Ronda just had attitude. You know, above everything else and above Ronda's skills, she had attitude. Now, her skills got greatly embellished through the media. Joanna's actually got the skills. As far as the attitude goes, I feel like Joanna is Ronda turned up a little bit. I feel that she's got more attitude and more vigor. I really think that. And as far as the media and everybody catching on, that's starting to change. You know, people are starting to really talk about her, and her opportunities are starting to really grow, and her fights are starting to do really big numbers. And I think that needs to be considered. I think that it does, because longevity matters, right? We're looking to get behind somebody that's got a big shelf life. She's a young gal. She training with the same people, and we just talked about it with Stipe. She is one of these champions that got to the top and then didn't change. She stayed with the same people doing the same thing. And that's one thing about Conor McGregor. I don't think Conor gets enough credit for this. I think Conor does a few things he does not get enough credit for. But his loyalty should really be admired. And Conor McGregor not only has not left his coach and his team and his gym, he will not leave his coach, his team, and his gym. There has been plenty of people who have tried to work with him, and he will tell them, no, this is who I worked with, this is who got me here, and this is who I'm going to stay with. When I bring up Conor, I was actually going in a different direction. Conor celebrated the birth of his first child, a healthy and handsome little boy who took his name, Conor McGregor. So that is Conor McGregor Jr. Congratulations to the entire family, he and Dee and little Conor. You want to know one that I personally feel is, I can't wait for this. I think it's slipping under the radar, but it's Demian Maia and Jorge Masvidal. For me, that's the one I want to see, because Masvidal can beat him. And beating Demian Maia is not something we see very often. Jorge Masvidal can beat him. You guys want to know what else? Maia could run him right over. There are many ways I could close my eyes, and what can I picture? Demian Maia has the skills to get him down, take his back, and get him out of there in 90 seconds. He also could lose the entire fight. It's one of these where it just matters. And Demian Maia, I don't think Masvidal can make Maia look bad. I think it's going to be a long, drawn-out, hard night if Masvidal's to get it done, and I personally just think he's gonna. I know how he's training. I got a little insight. I've known Masvidal a long time. His number one training partner, Colby Covington, I've known him his entire life. He's an Oregon guy. I think that Masvidal's going to be ready to stop the takedown. I think Masvidal's going to go out and punch and kick, and I think he's going to have a good night. That's just me talking, though. I don't have a dollar to back up that statement. It's that weird of a match. I don't know very many matches, guys, that I could come on and tell you about and tell you, I'm picking this guy, and I think he can win. I think he can upset and surprise everybody. And I also acknowledge he could get embarrassed in less than 2 minutes. I just don't know many fights where I could say that. But that's what it's like for anybody that fights Maia. Matt Brown had the ability to beat Demian Maia. Say what you want, 100%. Matt Brown is a more complete, meaner, ornerier, better conditioned fighter. But at certain positions, nobody can touch Maia. And Maia was able to get the fight to those positions. I find Maia so interesting because of that. He's almost a purist. And there's not many purists that fight at a high level anymore. There is no more days of, jiu-jitsu and a judo guy and a wrestling guy and a kickboxer. It's all one. It's all MMA now. Maia is the one exception where he got so good at one aspect, one art, and it was so overwhelming. I've never seen a guy in the history of the sport, Bellator, Strikeforce, Pride, WEC, UFC, you run through the organizations. I've never seen a human in this field more slighted than Demian Maia. He is such a clear number one contender and has been for so long. But there's other pieces. There's other pieces that have to come together, including the mandate of the masses. And Maia doesn't move that needle. He's got all the flame and all the buzz amongst the hardcores. And I'm a hardcore. You guys are hardcores. That's why you're listening to a podcast